Well, good morning, Terrace Pentecostal Assembly. Welcome to our first online service. 2 weeks ago when I spoke and I left on holidays, I was not expecting to come home to this. As many of you know, you probably follow me on social media. Moses and we went on a father-son vacation to New York and ended up in Toronto for a couple days. And you can probably see all the wonderful photos of our trip. And it was a challenging time, though, to kind of relax and enjoy a vacation when the world was changing hourly. And just so you're aware, for the next 2 weeks, I'll be at home here, self-quarantining myself, just for many reasons. And Nancy will be around the office to answer any questions you might have, and she'll be in constant communication with me. So during that time when I was on holidays, I was in daily contact with the board and the leadership team, whether it was through a text or a video chat. And I just wanted to appreciate and say thank you so much to the wisdom that they bring to the table. Not reacting to the government, but really being proactive and ahead of the curve on their decisions about making our church and decisions to keep everyone safe. So appreciate them. Did a wonderful job. So what are we going to do now in the weeks and the days and the months to come as individuals, as families? What are we going to do throughout the week? What are we going to do on a Sunday morning moving forward? So for my family, we're going to listen to some worship music. We'll be watching this message a little bit later. And I want to encourage you to do the same thing. If you're a musician, it'd be wonderful to gather around a piano or a guitar and just sing some songs together as a family. If you aren't able to do that like myself, then just play some music, so for everybody's sake. The Terrace Standard reached out to us as a church last week when I was away and just asking, what are we doing as Terrace Pentecostal Assembly to bless our community? And I thought that was a great question to ask. What are we doing? And the first thing we need to remember is, what is the church really called to do? Let's think about what's happening in every community right now. All non-essential businesses are closing their doors. We're only going to be left with grocery stores and gas stations. Basically just the things that we need to survive. So all non-essential stores closing, the church closing, physical building not being able to get used, to hold services, the church, to have missions lunches or Sunday school or senior social or preteen or youth ministry or quilting or weddings or funerals, or the list goes on and on and on. So we're faced with the reality of not having the ability to use the church building anymore. So again, what are we going to do about that? Well, we're going to do what we always do. We're going to share the gospel. We're going to preach. We're going to pray. We're going to just believe that God is going to bless our community. And you don't need a building to do that. If you remember 2 weeks ago when I spoke to you, and I just thought, wow, as if that wasn't an accident that I just happened to speak that message right before all this stuff happened. I mean, God is just so ahead of all this stuff. That I spoke in the Old Testament about Moses and Solomon, how they built the tabernacle, the temples, the church of the day. And when Jesus came on the scene in the New Testament, we see that as he hung on the cross, the temple, the veil was torn, that God's presence moved inside of people so that we become the church. It's not a physical building, it's that God lives inside of us and that we can take the church, the four walls, wherever we go. And that's just so encouraging to think about. So what can we do practically to take the church to the streets, so the highways and the byways? I think the first thing is just a Sunday school answer. Wow, we need to pray and we need to read our Bible. We need to get filled up spiritually. We read here in Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 4 to 9. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all of your heart and with all of your soul and with all of your strength. These commandments that I give you today are to be on your hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit down at home and when you go along the road, when you lay down and when you get up. Tie them as symbols on your hands and bind them on your foreheads. Write them on the door frames of your houses and on your gates. Just to press into God. You read there, I don't see, it doesn't say church, it doesn't say go to church, it says just to live it daily, walking, just when you get up, when you go to bed, just constantly thinking about God. If we turn the TV on, we're going to think about everything else besides the Lord. There's going to be a lot of anxiety and worry and fear. But when we open up the Bible, we get a different feeling. We get a feeling of joy and peace and that God's in control. The second thing I want to encourage us to do is to really take some ownership of the houses around you, the streets, the avenues around your house. Go on daily prayer walks around your neighborhood. Just pray that the spirit of fear, of worry, of anxiety would be lifted in Jesus' name. That we would just take the gospel out. We would just take the Spirit of God. We take the church right out onto the streets and just pray that the community would be blessed. Do you believe that? Do you believe that our community can be blessed through this difficult time? I really want to challenge us with that thought. I can imagine in our church on a bulletin board a map of the city where you would physically take a pin and you would pin it where you live. So there would be a pin on the city map of Terrace where your house is. And that as a church, we would kind of take this as a new ministry. We would say, okay, you live in that neighborhood. I want you to pray for all the people in that neighborhood. And the second thing would be wonderful to see is that you would see other pins around you, so there'll be other Christians around you that you could fellowship with. I just think through the situation, God can just start brand new things. I think it's a great ministry to be thinking about. But that we would be prayerful around the people around us, our neighbors, our streets, all those places around us. And the third thing I want to encourage us to do, I see a lot of chalking going on, a lot of signs going up. I see churches around their church putting up signs and chalking on the sidewalks, just words of encouragement, fruits of the Spirit, about love and peace and faithfulness and joy and goodness and patience and kindness. But I want to encourage us, let's take that just to our own houses and our own neighborhoods and our own areas again, so that the church just isn't in a location downtown in Scott and Eby. The church is actually on every street in our community. So let's be encouraged to do that. We're called first and foremost to bring the spiritual atmosphere. Again, we want to lift the spirit of heaviness. We want to lift the spirit of fear and have a spirit of peace and joy in our neighborhoods and our communities and those around us. Hey, if you have any other thoughts or any other good ideas, please reach out to Nancy in the office and share your thoughts with her. I want to leave you just with an idea around giving. So how are we going to, as a church, you think about if we came to a service, we'd have worship, we'd have prayer time, we'd give the announcements, we'd take up the offering, and we'd share a message. So how can we give financially in the days to come? So we're going to make available e-transfer. So you can contact the office through email, tpa@telus.net, and give financially through an e-transfer. The church will still be open Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. If you really feel led to come by and use the PIN pad and the debit machine, we'll be wiping it down basically hourly to make sure it's very, very clean for you. But I think the easiest way would be just through a simple e-transfer, tpa@telus.net. Send that over to the church and we'll just deposit it that way. Love you guys. Appreciate you. It's good to be back in Terrace. Thank you for all your support and your prayers. We look forward to connecting with you, probably on the phone or other ways like this in the days to come. Bless you. Love you guys. Bye-bye.